Before we get into this video, I just want to apologize for the audio situation because this is my first time making a video or using a camera or anything like that. And there was a lot of like rookie mistakes that I made throughout this whole process. And audio was one of those things that once it was there, I couldn't really do anything about it. So I just want to say once again, I'm sorry for the audio situation here. In the future, this will get better. I hope you enjoy nonetheless. So today I'm going to take you guys, I guess, on a little journey, and we're going to make shoes. Now, this has been something I've been doing for a little while now, and I don't have as much behind the scenes footage as I would like, but we are going to be walking you guys through what it takes to actually make a shoe. This is not a tutorial by any means. It's more of just like a process video, a journey video, just something that I thought would be fun to create, like a little documentation almost. Now, there are a few steps in here that I do want to talk about, and I'll talk about them later when we get to that part of the video. But when I started this process, there was so many questions that I had, so many things that I had to figure out, and a lot of really tedious, difficult steps that no one talks about. So I felt like it'd be kind of cool to talk about a few of those things in this video as well. Now, there is a little bit of yapping before we actually get into the tutorial stuff. But again, this is like my journey. I wanted to talk to you guys about what was easy, what was difficult, what was fun, like just the whole thing overall. So I guess if you're here for the journey, I hope you enjoy. We are going to be focusing mainly on these Travises that I made, and we also tattooed them as well. We did like a little monogram on them. I thought it'd be really cool. I feel like it turned out really cool. But we also tattooed a pair of Chicago's, and we did like this Japanese style dragon. And I mean, the dragon has nothing to do with this Chicago Jordan 1, but this is like a nod to my career as a tattoo artist, I guess. And these shoes were also made for my apprentice, which is a tattoo artist, and she really wanted this Japanese dragon on the side of her shoes. We said, okay, why not? Let's do it for the video. And we created 2 different pairs. We created like 5 different pairs of shoes. I would say overall, this whole experience was definitely way harder than I thought it was going to be. Of course, like everyone, I feel like I assumed jumping into this that it was going to be super simple. I've seen it done like, you know, a handful of times. How hard could this really be? It's not the hardest thing I've ever done by any means, but I feel like this required so much more patience than I feel like I was ready to give it. There's so many steps in this and so many things where if you just skip over small steps that are super, super annoying, you're just gonna get a lackluster result. So I feel like trying to balance all of this was a little more challenging than I thought it was gonna be. I do feel a little inclined to tell you guys why I'm even making this channel in the first place, because this is my first video and I feel like it'll make a little more sense, because this channel is going to be very expansive. I don't know. I'm not going to be sticking to just one thing. I want to pursue art in as many different ways as I possibly can. That means diving entirely into whatever I'm doing and like fully dedicating myself to that. And, you know, last year I started piano, and that was a massive hurdle to overcome. It's still very, very difficult. But I would play for like 5 to 8 hours a day sometimes. This process, this experience, I really want to try and document that and share it. Even making shoes so far, it's been like 3 years, and there's so many parts of it where like I wish I was recording, and I wish I could like have this footage to look back on and see how I did things before and see how I do them now. So hopefully with this whole channel, with this whole thing, it's going to be a lot more fun and a lot easier for me to like look back and see what I've done over the years. I feel like one thing that I kind of want to talk about that I haven't seen any of the Jordan 1 YouTubers talking about was the fact that I was going to have to learn how to sharpen my own knives. I've seen a lot of people just use like the pre-bought skiving tools, whatever. But with the amount of shoes that I was going to make, this just was not a viable option. Learning how to sharpen my knife, I feel like I spent so much time going back and forth between the sharpening stone and then, my leather, trying to see if like this was sharp enough, whatever, because I thought I was done. And there was just so many times where I almost didn't even want to make the shoe at all because I knew I was gonna have to skive this leather. And to do this correctly, it just took an extraordinary amount of time. Of course, it's always prepping the shoe that or prepping anything, I feel, takes more time than actually making whatever you're doing. It's strange how that works. So I specifically chose the 1985 Jordan 1 because growing up, it was like my favorite shoe. And I never knew it at the time, but there was something like very particular about the 85 ones that I really enjoyed. Like the shape was different, something, and I couldn't even tell at the time like what was what. I just knew that when I saw the 85, I knew it was the 85. So growing up, eventually I learned all the differences. I seen people making shoes like Shoe Surgeon and a couple other people that I'll try to put up on the screen. There was also someone I ran into, his name was Zyler Studios. His page, phenomenal. Once I seen his 85 Jordan 1s, I knew that was the shoe that I wanted to make. There are very slight differences between his 85s and like the original ones, but I would say they're all very tasteful. Everything that he's included or changed accentuates the design or makes it more functional in the long term. So once I got a hold of this pattern and found out how to make it, this was like my main focus. How am I gonna perfect this pattern? I would probably say the hardest parts about this entire thing, like the entire shoemaking process, is probably the lasting. The lasting it's taken me years now to get to the point where I feel comfortable lasting. And I feel like this for me was the last step for like getting everything in the correct package that I was looking for. With the 1985 Jordan 1s in particular, they have like this very distinct toe box. So in order to achieve that correctly, you have to last it properly. And this was just so tricky. There was just so many times where I messed up so many shoes, so many materials that I just like completely wasted. Shoes that were 100% finished, sewn, everything, logos on them, yada, yada, yada. And I mess up the lasting. And then I go to try and wear the shoe because I just like gaslight myself into thinking like, you know what, it's not that bad. Like no one would notice anyways. And I find that when it's not lasted correctly, it doesn't even wear correctly. It crumbles and folds in very like unorganic ways. So this whole thing was just a lot of work and a lot of learning, going through a lot of materials. Yeah. So getting to the point of actually making the shoes was pretty complicated. It took a lot more research than I really thought it was going to take. And this has been like a goal of mine for many, many years. I remember seeing the Shoe Surgeon long time ago, like 10 plus years ago now, and like a few others that after him. And I remember always wanting to be able to do that, but I didn't know how. There was no resources back then or anything like that. And even when I got started, there was probably like 2 decent videos on how to actually do this, but they skipped out on so many important, small, little, stupid steps that it made the whole process very, very difficult. And I felt like there were so many people, not so many people, but there was like a handful of other people on YouTube making this type of content. But even then, like no one had all the information. And even then there was so much like overlap between what to do and what not to do, that this whole thing, I ended up having to experiment by myself, making small adjustments to like each pair. I couldn't make large adjustments at once. Like I had to be individual things, test them out. Did this work? Did this not work? And I made so many shoes that I don't even have like footage of anymore because I had to take them apart, reuse the bottoms, whatever. It has been a crazy process, but this whole thing has been so fun and so educational, honestly giving me a lot of confidence to go into whatever project I go into in the future. Really quickly, I think I want to talk about these Zyler Studio patterns. Now, I know without a doubt, had I gone for the paper patterns and had I made as many shoes as I did with the paper patterns, there's absolutely no way they would have survived like the test of time. And it's only been like a couple years. So that initial investment, and mind you, the patterns used to be like even more expensive than they are now, and they're still probably the most expensive patterns on the market. But without a doubt, they are worth every single penny. There is so much love and so much care that goes into these patterns, and you can tell because everything is literally just perfect. Everything fits perfectly. Everything is just immaculate. There is no other pattern that I'd recommend, and even just the end shape of the shoe is spectacular. Everyone else has just like ripped apart a retro Jordan, traced the pattern, and then sold it off as their own. And I guess, you know, you can do that. You've still put in the work to like trace the pattern and like put it into your CAD program, you know, whatever. You guys know who you are. But the Zyler Studio pattern is adjusted ever so slightly. Like, he knows how to make a pattern completely from scratch, and that's what he did with the 85-1. There are little adjustments, and they end up being very tasteful, in my opinion at least. And I feel like a lot of people share that opinion considering what his Instagram looks like. And he doesn't even post, but when he posts, like, everyone knows. He's just in the sneaker making community. He's very, very well known. He even has like a certain way of binding the tongue, which we did in this video. And now everyone I know that makes 1's does it his way. And I guess that's just standard now. If you try to go on like any of the reselling websites right now and look for, you know, these shoes, they sell for extraordinary prices. It's just so absurd almost. And it's just so unattainable by like the average consumer that it doesn't even make sense to like look at that kind of stuff. So my only option to actually get a pair of 85-1s that were in my size that I liked and that I could actually wear every day or beat them up, whatever. The only way to do that was to learn how to make them. So I started this 3-year-long process now, and finally I'm able to actually make a shoe that I think will stand the test of time. So in terms of my materials, this was also a very long journey for me to understand and like really process. I started out with very, very thin materials, even making my first shoe out of lambskin, which it just doesn't make any sense. If you've made shoes or worked with leather, it doesn't make any sense to make such a, it doesn't make sense to make a product that's going to be used and abused like a pair of shoes out of lambskin. It's just too soft and too delicate of a material. And it's much better to use as a liner, sometimes, kinda, depending on what you're trying to do. I experimented with like some slightly thicker leathers, and depending on the material and the firmness of the material, I had better luck than others sometimes. And all of these materials were backed with like, you know, my fabric backing, whatever, but they would still crumble under like high pressure. So I had to go back to the drawing board, get better, higher quality materials, and eventually I ended up just using veg tan. So with the pairs that I'm actually creating in this video, I did something a little different where I ended up tattooing both pairs. Now, I do have a tattoo background, so this kind of made it, I guess, easy for me to do this. I seen someone do this on Instagram a little while ago. I don't remember his page, I'm so sorry, but he did like dragons and all that kind of stuff on all types of leather materials. So I figured I can actually make the shoe from scratch, and I know how to tattoo, so why not combine these two things together? This allowed me to, I would say, make something that looks very professional because I was able to tattoo the shoe in its like pre-construction phase. I could tattoo it and then cut out all my leathers and all that kind of stuff, which means we're gonna have all of our stitching on top of the paint. And I feel like it's just like these really small touches that make something really professional. And I really enjoyed adding this to the product. On the Travis pair, we actually did like this white on cream monogram. I knew I wanted to do a monogram or something like Travis related on the Travis pair, obviously, but I didn't want it to be too loud. So I figured this was like a good compromise between the two of them. We have, again, monogramming all around the shoe, but because it's on the cream, it's just very, very subtle, and it's something that you only really notice if you're like really, really close up to the shoe. Once you're far away, even from here, you probably wouldn't even notice that there's like a whole bunch of drawings all over the shoe. And I feel like for me, that's what I really like. Okay, so now with all that being said, we should actually get on to what I'm assuming people came here for, and that's like the actual process of making shoes. So let's get to the actual process now of making the shoe. And again, this isn't a tutorial. I'm going to condense this down as properly as I can, I guess you could say, but let's get started. Whatever. Okay, so I think we're watching Blade Runner again today. I've seen it once. Didn't love it, but that's okay. Not every movie is for everyone. And get started. Okay, so we're using an FK Irons machine. This is not my main tattooing machine. So I just want to be careful with this step because I don't want to obviously get paint where it shouldn't be. I find this so much more accurate than a paintbrush though. Maybe that's just because I've been tattooing for years, but I think the coolest thing about this design is that it looks very like hand-drawn. So I don't have to follow it exactly. I can kind of just do my own thing as long as it looks similar. All right, so we have all of our reinforcement pieces cut out now. We're going to glue them all to the back of the leather. Now, you can get reinforcement that's like iron-on, but honestly, it's not very good for shoemaking, especially in like the long term. I've tried this before. I've used it in a shoe, and like I tried to beat up the shoe word as much as possible to see how the materials would react over time. And honestly, the whole shoe crumbled in a way that I really did not appreciate. So I'm gonna say stay away from an iron-on. The sew-in is the best stuff. You can get this from your local fabric stores. Really, it's not hard to find. I don't know what thickness this is, but just go around, feel a bunch of different ones and get something that you think feels nice. This material is also going to add a lot of strength to our shoe. Everywhere that's getting a hole punched inside of it is definitely going to need some reinforcement like this. This is like over time, it's going to keep it from ripping. But once we have all these on, our leather's going to have just a little bit more shape, which is really good for shoemaking. Okay, so when we're putting these pieces together, there's two ways to go about this. You can either use tape, like double-sided tape, or you can use glue. I feel like I'm pretty cautious about where I use glue because wherever you use glue, it is going to harden up the shoe in that area just a little bit. And like by harden up, it's just gonna be a tad bit stiffer than it would have been without the glue. It's not the end of the world. It's not a big deal, but I feel like I try to use that to my advantage. So I'll put it in very crucial spots. These are the spots that are like the center back piece or where the shoes ultimately join together. Honestly, anything on the center, I usually will glue that down. In this case, for this shoe, I would be gluing down the Travis swoosh. I'll walk you guys through that when we get to that point, but I just thought I'd mention that real quick. So this is usually always my first step. I'm pretty sure you can do like one or two other steps first, but I just like to start here. It's hard to like get the perfect angle on this side so that I can get this stitch completely straight, but I think I got it. Some people will put like guides on the leather before they sew it just to get like super close to the edge. I have never really had any luck doing that, so I kind of just skip that part. So when I attach this, I try not to do it like completely flat because none of these patterns were made like completely flat. They're all three-dimensional. So I try to just promote some of that shape before we get started sewing. I find that this just helps everything sit just a little bit better. Okay. So I like to go around the whole piece before I double side anything or like double stitch anything. That's just to make sure that nothing moves. It's unlikely, but just in case. That could have been bad. Okay. So normally I would have done this next step before, but I'm gonna go ahead and mark a center line for this back piece. And for this piece right here. And for our little heel tab thing. The reason we're doing that is just to make sure that everything stays like perfectly centered once we actually get started. Okay, so we have a bunch of pieces to glue together. I think we're just gonna glue at least most of them right now, just to make things a little easier. This one, I'm gonna go in steps though. I find that if this piece isn't glued, it just causes so much nightmares. I've made too many shoes, made too many mistakes to figure that one out now. This piece is like definitely prone to stretching when lasting. There's a few different ways to go about like securing this piece down so that it doesn't stretch. But honestly, I really just like using the glue here. So I bring this just slightly higher than it's supposed to be, just to give this a really nice wrap on the other side. So I'll center that. And then I'll center that. That's just to keep it from moving. Let's get the other side attached. That'll be annoying. Not that annoying. Let's also quickly attach this. While we let that dry, we can probably just work on this piece right over here. I find that if I didn't used to do that, this back tab piece would often just like get loose when I was sewing. So I feel like that really nicely secures it down, especially if you like skive it properly. So now we're just gonna sew this and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, so our next step. So normally our next step would be to attach these two pieces together, but I think I want to build the tongue right now. I think. Let's build the tongue first. Let's get that out the way because I feel like that's a really tedious process. And I really don't want to do it, so I feel like I should just do it right now. I should do it right now. Yeah. Okay. We're gonna get this out of the way. And we're gonna put these two pieces together. This is not that difficult, but you just gotta make sure you line up these centers, and then you just want to be careful on this edge. I have to cut foam. Elegant, graceful, sexy. Cover girl. Okay, so we're back and we have all of our foam pieces cut out, and including this heel counter piece. This is a very important piece. I'll get to this later. Right now, we just need to focus on this. Okay, so let's go ahead, put these two bad boys together. So right when I get to the center, I kind of just lift everything up, turn it a little bit, and then I just keep doing that until I get past this curve. So real quick, I'm just gonna hammer out the inside of this just to make it flat. This is honestly a pretty important step if you want everything to fit right. It is a little difficult, even with veg tan, like after you skive it, but it's worth it. We're gonna go ahead now and glue this down. While we're waiting for this to dry, I'm gonna go ahead and put this piece together and this one. So I'm not gonna back tack this right now because this material tends to move quite a bit. So I'm just gonna stitch, loosen up every once in a while. Just go ahead and glue this one down too. I do consider this to be the hardest part of the entire build, and I know some people wouldn't say that, but for whatever reason, I've always had a really hard time putting the tongue binding on. So I'm gonna walk you guys through that. We're gonna do this in hopefully not too long of a manner. We'll see. Let's get this started though. So our first step. So we're gonna put this tag on first. This tag is gonna go on after the tongue binding because this gets wrapped around the tongue binding. So let's put this in. I haven't cut out the tongue binding. Okay, so the first thing that I'm gonna do. Okay, wait. This is her tongue binding. So we're gonna attach this now. And the first thing that I do is line the center up, and then I'm just gonna clamp it down. So I'm just moving these down after crimping everything, because we're gonna start from the center, and I want to make sure that that didn't move. So this material moves very easily. So I'm just gonna go ahead, get a few backtracks in, and then try to start this journey nice and slow. So this material is super, super stretchy. So I'm just taking my time, really. Now this has stretched a little bit, but that's okay. Okay, so our glue is dried. We are going to now flip the edge over. So now I'm just going to pull everything kind of as tight as I can without ripping things. And let's start to wrap. This is kind of the annoying part, but we're gonna start right here and we're just gonna go all the way up. If you have everything like laid down properly, it shouldn't be the end of the world. But I'm saying that before I did it, so who knows? So I'm literally trying to just go right in the ditch that's already created. I don't really want to see this stitch too much. Oh yeah. Honestly, I'm really just taking my time here because there's absolutely no need to rush. The next step is actually going to be to put our liner on. Okay, so I've gone ahead and attached this piece. It's not a very difficult step, so I didn't really include it in the process. The next thing to do is going to be to attach the liner, and we want the suede side to be touching our socks. So we're going to do this suede side facing this side. So right side facing right side. And then we're just going to run a parallel stitch along there. And as long as it's parallel, this step shouldn't be a problem. If it's not parallel, you're going to get a wonky collar. We need to make some quick marks and cuts. Inside, but on my machine I just can't get a very specific stitch, so we're gonna go ahead, glue all these layers down on the swoosh side first, like the right side first, whatever. Anyways, we're gonna go ahead, glue this down, and then we'll sew it. Before we actually close the entire shoe, this step is the easiest, so I do this on the good side of the shoe, just in case. Okay, these are all now like tacky, so we're gonna go ahead and stick them together. Assuming that you've cut out all your pieces correctly, these are kind of just going to line up really nice on the inside. We're gonna tack this down a few times because this is like one of the highest tension points in the whole shoe, especially like when you're lasting it. So I always put like just a couple back tacks in here. I also just do another stitch at the bottom over here, just to secure these two pieces together. We have like 2 more stitches and then we're done. We're basically done the shoe without lasting. We're done the shoe though, like we're done the upper. I'm realizing that I'm probably gonna have to do like a dedicated video to lasting, because the whole lasting process itself is a whole different aspect of shoemaking. I think I'm just gonna go over like a quick few steps of the lasting, like maybe just like the most crucial parts, like tips, not even like anything crazy. Because again, this is a whole thing. I think I want to dedicate a whole separate video to lasting. I don't see how I could also do lasting in this video without it being like extraordinarily long. I'm just gonna tape on this piece right here. It's not necessary. It's just a lot easier. I'm sorry, babies. So I just went ahead, laced these up like fairly loosely, but the laces are going to be very crucial in actually getting the shape that we want. So I'm just going to go ahead, center mark this. That's going to make things literally like so much easier. Okay. Now for the fun part. We are going to first pin this down. We're not going to pull it all the way down yet, just right up to this point. This is just gonna like hold this in place while we actually nail down the front toe box over here. So for that first toe one, we actually go right over the lasting line. I don't know, it's just a thing. If you do it right on the lasting line, you're not gonna get a proper fit, at least not in my experience. Okay, so we have these 3 nails in here. I'm just gonna pull this piece down, this one right here. We're gonna get this right to the line, and then we're gonna nail these 2 side pieces. Okay, this is where we're at so far, and I'm already sweating. But now, I'm gonna pull these laces and we'll be good. So I just like to use the lasting pliers to like really pull these laces. Just be careful not to actually rip the laces. This will make lasting a lot harder, but in my opinion, I feel like the point of lasting is to shape the shoe. And how can you shape the shoe if everything is not tight around the last? I don't know how that would work. Honestly, once you're done, like those crucial like lasting nails, everything else is kind of really easy. You really just have to take your time in making sure that everything is lined up. So this is my personal pair. I am going to build this without putting the toe box insert inside. I can't possibly understand how that actually adds a lot of rigidity to a veg tan shoe. So I'm gonna test this out. I wanna see how this wears over time. And who knows, I feel like it might even shape a little better without that piece of plastic on the inside. I purposely waited until the end of the whole editing process to actually shoot the outro of this video, because I wanted to see it too. I wanted to see the whole journey. I wanted to understand if I miss anything, I needed to add anything in here. But honestly, I feel like I'm really happy with how this turned out. And I'm hoping that you're happy too. So there was definitely some steps that, you know, I skipped out on this whole process, but I said that in the beginning of this video, I didn't want this to be a full tutorial. This is a journey. This is just about my experience making shoes. I do plan on making like a full comprehensive video eventually about shoes. Just There's a lot of things I want to do with this channel, and I really want to show you guys that this is much bigger than just shoes. I want to create art, share art, learn a whole bunch of new things. So I guess the only thing I can say now is thank you for coming on this journey with me, and I hope I see you on the next one. What else do I say?